Our graders is dying, or at least that's what many people seem to think. But how do we know if a video game is actually on its last breath? So obviously, if a game has a low player count, infrequent updates, or long matchmaking queues, people begin to worry and speculate that the game is dying. But people also take these things to the extreme too, as we all know, like for example, watching the Steam charts religiously for player counts. As a content creator for games like Arc Raiders, my social media is flooded with screenshots of the Steam charts along with negative feedback and predictions of the game's pending death. But do you want to know a secret?
Most of us don't agree.
But as we all know, people are much more inclined to share their negative opinions in the world over their positive ones. But you see, it's crazy. People can take breaks from games and still return to them. Growing up, for example, we played what was popular at the time, but still returned to old titles that we knew and loved. And nobody knew how many people were online, and nobody cared because they played because that's what they wanted to play. And even if a game only got played for a couple weeks, that was okay because we still had fun. But things have shifted with live service games. People really value their money, and if you spend money on cosmetics, in-game perks, passes, you're gonna want to keep returning to the game because yes, it might be a small amount of money, but it adds up. And people don't want to let go of a game that they've spent hundreds or even thousands on. Sure, people may still check out a new game, but any game they touch must exceed that expectation for their previous game that they love and adore and spent all their money on. Or they will lose interest, feel it's not worth it, and leave and head back to where they're comfortable. But see, that's also why we see large numbers at the beginning that eventually level out. The new game hype wears off. And like I just said, that new game has to compete with their previous game, yet it hasn't had all of those years that their previous game had to grow, flourish, and receive updates. So if a new game isn't pumping out content, new game modes, and new cosmetics continuously from the start, people get mad. There's also those that have spent so many hours of their time on a game and continue to play it because that's what their friends play. So they justify it by saying, oh, well, look at the player count. Glad I never touched it. That game's gonna die anyways. Which honestly, in the bigger picture, makes me kind of sad. Whatever happened to picking up a game because it was something that you thought you would enjoy personally? And why should a player count and your friend's decision to play affect whether you decide to play a game? Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, some games have died due to low player count and overwhelming costs. For example, Concord, which Sony took offline and even issued refunds for only 14 days after its launch. But see, there are only so many gamers for each game genre. And if every single game needs large player counts to succeed and meet their budgets, are they going to succeed? No. But if a company takes that into consideration from the start, things can be okay. It's all a matter of expectations versus reality. And that's when marketing comes into play as well. Because if a new game launches and it's marketed as groundbreaking and players disagree, it will plummet fast. But that doesn't mean that they just needed to market it better. No, they should have budgeted better and focused on the gameplay rather than the hype. Let's be honest, if I said to you, hey, you should check out this game, it's really cool, you'll go into it hoping just to have fun. But if I say, hey, you have to check this game out, it's crazier than any other game, it could even be the future of gaming and it's gonna go down in history, well then your expectations are obviously higher and you're gonna go into it being like, do I agree with her? And you'll probably leave disappointed in some way or another. And that's a big issue with the gaming industry these days. It doesn't allow for growth. Instead, cancel culture takes over and the game just sucks. They don't want to hear it. Too bad, I'm already done with the game. But can we just think for a second about the people behind these games that have put their lives on hold and put their entire heart and passion and hard work into these games just for people to not even give it a genuine chance to flourish? And then you have these hugely successful games who have years under their belt and take the focus off of passion and their love for the game and put it on dollar signs, causing things like game modes to be shut down and even layoffs. But let's go back to the Steam player count because so many of you focus on that. Do you ever ask yourself when looking at the player count, who is this specific game actually made for? Because if you take that into account, then obviously games like Fortnite and Roblox are going to have much higher player counts than games like Arc Raiders. Those games have many different player modes for every different player type, and that is an issue that Arc Raiders is running into. Many of you want a PvE mode. Many of you don't. Embark themselves have said they don't want to divide the player base. That's a huge thing to them. And that right there has many of you upset. But you could argue that dividing the player base is the wrong thing to do because that leads to game modes that don't get played as often and then they get shut down, or even things like bots being added to lobbies to fill queues. And honestly, if the game had launched as a PvE title, PvP players wouldn't have touched it and vice versa. So yes, if you make a game more open to everyone, of course it will be more popular. But eventually, player types within the game will beg for game modes that cater cater more to their playstyles. But then on the other hand, if you make a more focused game, you're gonna have a lower player count because many people won't check it out as it doesn't meet their needs. So yes, Arc Raiders player count has lowered, as many have tried the game and some have decided it's not for them. Or some just took a break and decided to play something else. But that doesn't mean they won't be back. And honestly, can we just take a moment and appreciate the reason that we're all here? That video games give us an escape from the real world and give us a little bit of fun, even if you only pick the game up once. Arc Raiders may not be your go-to game, and that's totally okay. But like most games, it will continue to grow and flourish and adapt. Maybe you'll come back and check it out, maybe you won't. Each game has its own dedicated community, big or small, that will continue to support the game. And developers can continue to improve on a game as time goes on. To say a game is failing just because it doesn't keep a consistent high player count is absolutely crazy to me. And if for some crazy reason Embark did have to shut Arc Raiders down tomorrow, oh my gosh, saying that just made me sad. But seriously, even if the game did shut down tomorrow for some crazy reason, that would not change the memories and the fun I have had with my friends in this game. My hope is that if you take anything from this video, it's do not be afraid to check out a game because of its player count and a fear that it will die. Because I bet if player counts weren't available, you wouldn't even hesitate to check out a game that interests you. So I'll ask you one more time. Does low player count really mean that a game is dying? Thanks for watching. Hit that like button and follow along for more Arc Raiders news and updates.